Many of these Bugattis have multicolors, but I think this just showcases the shape in an exceptionally good way and how timeless it is. I mean, the original shape was coming out when we presented also our first car in the year 2000.
A closed highway in Nevada. An orange Koenigsegg screaming through the desert at nearly 278 miles per hour. And somewhere in France, Bugatti lost a crown it thought nobody could touch. But this was never just about speed, because behind that world record was a tiny Swedish company that looked at the biggest names in the automotive world, Bugatti, Ferrari, Lamborghini, and quietly asked a dangerous question. What if everything about modern supercars was built on the wrong assumptions? And the craziest part? They may have been right. World speed record. Let me take you to a highway in Nevada, not a racetrack, a highway, a long flat stretch of Nevada State Route 160, closed off for a single purpose, to find out how fast a Koenigsegg Agera RS could actually go. The date is November 4th, 2017. The car is painted orange. The driver is Nicholas Lilja, a Koenigsegg test driver who, I can only assume, has a very unusual relationship with fear. The rules for a production car speed record require 2 runs in opposite directions, averaged together to account for wind. So they close the road, line it with timing equipment, and let the car do what it was built to do. Run 1, 284.55 miles per hour. Let that number sit for a second. Run 2, 271.19 miles per hour. The average, 277.9 miles per hour. A new world record for a production car. A number that rewrote what was considered physically achievable in a street-legal automobile. And here's where it gets interesting. The record that Koenigsegg broke that day? It wasn't held by Ferrari. It wasn't held by Lamborghini or McLaren or any of the obvious names. It was held by Bugatti. The Veyron Supersport had held the production car speed record at 267.856 miles per hour since 2010. Bugatti had worn that crown for 7 years. It was part of their identity, part of the pitch. When you spend $4 million on a Chiron, part of what you're buying is the bragging right of owning a car built by the company that owns the record, the company that has pushed the absolute limit of what's possible. Until the Swedish kid in the converted airbase decided it wasn't fast enough. And here's the part nobody really talks about. Koenigsegg didn't set that record with some stripped-out, barely road-legal race machine built purely for the number. The Agera RS was a customer car. It had air conditioning. It had a luggage compartment. It was a car you could theoretically drive to the grocery store, if your grocery store was also a wind tunnel. Meanwhile, Bugatti had to electronically limit the Chiron's top speed to 261 miles per hour because they couldn't source a tire capable of handling anything faster at full power. Think about that. The car they were selling to ultra-wealthy customers for $3 million was being artificially slowed down because the tires couldn't keep up. Koenigsegg's response to that problem? Build around it, engineer past it, find a way. That is the fundamental difference between these two companies, and that difference shows up everywhere. The record wasn't just a number, it was a statement. From a soft-spoken Swede who doesn't particularly enjoy press conferences, it was as loud as a statement gets. We're not playing the same game as you, we're playing a different one entirely. And we're winning. Christian vision behind Koenigsegg. Now I need to tell you about Christian, because this story doesn't make sense without him. He was born in 1972 in Stockholm. His family had money. Not oligarch money, but comfortable, European, old-world money. He was the kind of kid who took things apart to see how they worked, and then put them back together better than before. At the age of 5 years old, he watched a Norwegian film called Flåklypa Grand Prix, an animated story about an inventor who builds the world's fastest racing car. And something clicked into place inside him that apparently never clicked back out. By the time he was 22, he had decided he was going to build the world's greatest supercar. Stay with me, because I know how that sounds. 22-year-olds decide they're going to do extraordinary things all the time. The difference is that Christian von Koenigsegg actually did it. He founded Koenigsegg Automotive in 1994 with almost no money and zero experience in car manufacturing. He had no factory, no engineering team, no investors lined up. He had passion, intelligence, and what appears to be a complete inability to accept the word impossible as a final answer. The first workshop was, genuinely, a barn in rural Sweden. He and a tiny team worked there for years, hand-building components, figuring things out as they went, burning through personal savings and borrowed money and the goodwill of anyone who believed in what they were making.
My name is Christian von Koenigsegg. For half of my life, I've been on the quest to be a leader in the hypercar industry, utilizing Swedish design combined with visionary technical solutions.
The first prototype took 3 years to complete. But here's what makes Christian different from every other visionary with a dream story you've ever heard. He didn't just want to build a fast car. He wanted to understand, at a fundamental level, why conventional cars weren't as good as they could be, and then fix the underlying problems, not paper over them with more horsepower. He became obsessed with weight, specifically with eliminating it. His philosophy, stated simply, every kilogram you remove from a car is a kilogram of performance you gain for free, without adding any complexity, without burning more fuel, without any engineering compromise. Weight is the enemy of everything. Speed, handling, braking, efficiency, all of them are worse with more weight. So his job, as he sees it, is to wage a permanent war against mass. This is why Koenigsegg manufactures an almost surreal percentage of their components in-house. The carbon fiber bodywork, the wheels, the exhaust system, even the seat frames. If you buy something from a supplier, you're accepting their compromises. If you make it yourself, you can make it exactly as light and strong as your requirements demand. No more, no less. This is also why Koenigsegg's cars have always been outrageously light relative to their power output. The CC8S, their first production car, launched in 2002 with 655 horsepower and weighed under 1,200 kilograms. For context, a Bugatti Veyron, which came out a few years later, weighed almost twice that. It had more horsepower, yes, but the power-to-weight ratio, the number that actually determines how fast a car accelerates, handles, and performs. Koenigsegg had the edge. Christian has a habit of being polite about competitors when asked directly. He tends to say things like, every manufacturer has a different approach, and we respect what Bugatti has achieved. And you get the sense that he genuinely means it, not as a social grace, but because he's so focused on his own problems that the competition is almost secondary. That's the most dangerous kind of competitor, the one who isn't trying to beat you, the one who's just trying to be the best version of themselves and finds, almost as a side effect, that they've left you behind. The technology war. This is the moment the story stops being about cars and starts becoming about technology. Because the truth is, Koenigsegg is not behaving like a traditional car company anymore. Traditional car companies improve things gradually. A little more horsepower, slightly better aerodynamics, a nicer interior, evolution, not revolution. Koenigsegg does something far more dangerous. It questions assumptions the rest of the industry stopped questioning decades ago. Take the Koenigsegg Jesko Absolute. When it was revealed in 2020, most people focused on the headline numbers, 1,600 horsepower on regular fuel.
The Jesko engine pretty much finished.
I still can't get over how compact it all is.
Yeah,
You know.
1,600 horsepower and 1,500 Newton meters.
1,700 on E85, and a theoretical top speed pushing 330 miles per hour. A number so absurd that the limiting factor isn't the engine anymore. It's the tires. There are barely any tires on Earth capable of surviving sustained speeds like that. And that isn't science fiction, Michelin engineers have openly discussed the challenges of building tires capable of handling those loads and temperatures at extreme velocity. At 300+ miles per hour, the tire itself becomes a physics experiment. Centrifugal forces try to tear it apart from the inside. But the truly important thing about the Jesko isn't the speed, it's the mindset behind it. Most companies build around limitations. Koenigsegg builds as if limitations are temporary engineering problems waiting to be solved. That philosophy shows up everywhere inside the car. The light-speed transmission, developed entirely in-house, can jump between gears almost instantly without the pause you normally feel during gear shifts. Journalists who tested prototypes described it as surreal, like the car could read your mind faster than your hands could react. No dramatic interruption, no loss of momentum, just continuous acceleration that feels almost unnatural. And yet, somehow, even that may not be Koenigsegg's biggest breakthrough. That title probably belongs to free valve. Now this is where things become genuinely disruptive. For more than a century, nearly every internal combustion engine on Earth has depended on camshafts. From old muscle cars to Formula One-inspired hypercars, the system is fundamentally the same. Metal shafts rotating in perfect synchronization to open and close engine valves. It works beautifully, but it also locks the engine into compromises. Engineers have spent decades trying to work around those compromises using variable valve timing systems, turbochargers, and increasingly complex software. But Christian von Koenigsegg looked at the entire system and asked a different question. What if the camshaft itself was the problem? Free valve eliminates it completely. Instead of one rotating shaft controlling every valve mechanically, each valve operates independently using pneumatic, hydraulic, and electronic actuators. That means the engine can change its behavior instantly depending on what the driver needs. Cruising on the highway? The engine can prioritize efficiency. Full throttle? Maximum airflow and power. Need low-end torque? Adjust valve timing instantly. Gentle city driving? Shut down cylinders seamlessly. The engine stops behaving like a machine locked into fixed mechanical rules. It starts behaving like software. And this isn't just theory. In 2020, the Chinese automaker Koros demonstrated a production-ready concept car using free valve technology. Multiple automotive engineers who examined the system described it as one of the most significant internal combustion innovations in decades. That's the part people miss. While companies like Bugatti perfected the traditional hypercar formula, more cylinders, more luxury, more speed, Koenigsegg quietly started rewriting the rules underneath the engine itself. One company is refining history, the other is trying to replace it. And maybe that's why Koenigsegg feels so fascinating right now. It doesn't feel like a luxury brand chasing prestige. It feels like a small group of engineers treating the automotive industry as an unsolved problem, which is a very different kind of threat. Bugatti's identity crisis. Here's an uncomfortable question. What actually is Bugatti right now? For most of the 20th century, the answer was simple. Bugatti was the pinnacle of automotive craftsmanship. From Ettore Bugatti's extraordinary pre-war racing cars to the post-revival Veyron, the brand stood for one thing above all others, the pursuit of automotive perfection through obsessive engineering. The Veyron was a legitimate engineering miracle, 800 horsepower, then 1,000, in a car that was also fast enough to outrun almost anything on a racetrack, comfortable enough to cross a continent.
It has 4 turbochargers breathing air into those 16 cylinders, making 1,001 horsepower, or 987 North American horsepower, or 6.8 trillion somebody else's horsepower. It doesn't matter, it's really fast.
And refined enough to park outside an opera house without embarrassment. It was genuinely difficult to build. It was genuinely an achievement, and it made Bugatti for a moment the undisputed king of what a car could be. Then something started to shift. Bugatti was sold by Volkswagen Group to a consortium led by Rimac Automobili in 2021. Rimac, run by the brilliant Croatian engineer Mate Rimac, is an electric hypercar company. They make the Nevra, an all-electric car that produces nearly 2,000 horsepower and accelerates with the kind of violence that rearranges your internal organs. It's extraordinary. It also represents a philosophy that is almost the opposite of what Bugatti has always built. So now Bugatti sits inside a company built around electric power, trying to figure out what to do with its gasoline-drinking W16 identity in a world that is slowly, then rapidly, moving away from internal combustion entirely. The Chiron is their current car. It is, by any objective measure, a masterpiece of the old world. The 16-cylinder engine is an engineering cathedral, complex, powerful, beautifully made. The interior is hand-stitched and precisely assembled. It drives with a feeling of immense, almost imperial authority. It also weighs nearly 2,000 kilograms. It cannot be updated with software. It will not evolve. It is a perfect expression of what internal combustion engineering looked like at its apex, and that apex is now in the rearview mirror. Bugatti's response has been to lean harder into the luxury angle. The brand talks increasingly about craftsmanship, heritage, exclusivity, the experience of ownership. These are the words you use when the engineering argument is becoming harder to win. They have released limited editions and special collaborations and versions with more expensive leather. All of it beautifully done, all of it slightly beside the point. Meanwhile, Koenigsegg continues to file patents, continues to invent things. The Gemera, a 4-seat hybrid Grand Tourer producing over 1,700 horsepower from a 3-cylinder engine and electric motors, represents a kind of thinking about what a car can be that Bugatti hasn't publicly engaged with at all. The older brand is looking at its reflection in the mirror. The younger brand is looking out the window. That is Bugatti's identity crisis, and it is not a small one. Invisible rules, breaking. Okay. Step back from the cars for a moment, because there's a bigger story underneath all of this, one that has nothing to do with horsepower numbers or top speed records, and everything to do with how the world actually changes. Here is the pattern. A dominant institution builds something extraordinary. It succeeds. It is celebrated. And in the process of succeeding, it builds up a set of assumptions about how things must be done. Those assumptions harden into processes, cultures, expectations. The institution becomes, without quite realizing it, a prisoner of its own success, and then someone comes along who never absorbed those assumptions. Someone who looked at the same problem with fresh eyes, not better eyes necessarily, just unencumbered ones, and asked a different question, not how do we do this better, but why are we doing it this way at all? Koenigsegg asked why engines needed camshafts. Nobody at Bugatti had asked that question, because camshafts are how engines work, and everyone knows that. Christian von Koenigsegg didn't know that. Or more precisely, he knew it and decided it wasn't a good enough reason to accept the limitation. This pattern repeats itself across every industry, in every era. The most dangerous competitor is never the one playing by your rules. It's the one who rewrites them. The taxi industry didn't see Uber coming because Uber wasn't building a better taxi. It was building something that made the taxi model obsolete. Kodak didn't see digital photography as an existential threat because they were thinking about better film, not about what happens when film disappears entirely. Bugatti is building the best possible version of something. Koenigsegg is questioning whether that something is the right thing to be building at all. Now here's where this gets personal, because I think there's something in this story for all of us, not just automotive enthusiasts and engineering nerds, but anyone who makes things, builds things, competes in anything. What assumptions are you carrying around that you've never questioned? What obvious approaches are you using because that's how it's done, because that's what everyone does, because you learned it that way and it's always worked? The Koenigsegg story is a reminder that the person who's going to make you look obsolete probably isn't someone with more resources than you. It's probably someone with less, but with a willingness to look at your most fundamental assumptions and say quietly, with genuine curiosity, why? That's not comfortable, but it's true, and it's worth sitting with. In the end, it was never really about speed or price or even engineering. It was about direction. One machine perfected the past until it became untouchable. The other keeps tearing the blueprint apart, trying to outrun its own definition of possible. But here's what nobody likes to admit. Every time we crown a winner in this story, the finish line moves. So maybe the real question isn't which car is greater. It's what happens when the people building the future decide the old benchmarks were never the point at all. And if that's true, then what exactly are we all still measuring against?